morning, Rabbi Perets.
Good morning, Angelique.
So we had a good question on the website, and the question is it allowed to have blood transfusions?
So thank you for your question, Angelique. The answer to the question is yes. It is permitted by Torah for Noahide to donate his blood to a donation bank and to have his blood transfused into a person who is, of course, of his same blood type. If it's an universal donor, O plus can be given to anybody. It has to, the residence has to agree, plus or minus, as it's done by the medical team then. If one looks at the verse in the Torah, in Genesis chapter 9, verse 4, where it's stated, but the flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat. Many people would tend to think that a person could not eat if, for example, he's eating a chicken that he cannot eat the blood of the chicken, because it's written in the Bible, but the flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat. As the soul, the nefesh, the most basic level of the soul remains in the blood, as when a person goes to sleep, he is 1/60th in a state of 1/60th of death. All the further levels of the soul leave him his body, the ruach and the neshama, the spirit and the intellect leave the body. Only the nefesh, the physiological soul which remains in the blood, remains in the body. So a person would tend to think the blood we should not eat. And maybe the blood is the life of that person, so it maybe will vinculate the soul of that person. If it gets transfused by half a liter of the blood of a certain person, maybe if that person was not such a tzaddik, such a righteous person, maybe it will get mixed up with my soul. All of that is superstition, is not correct according to Torah. A person, according to the Bible, the prohibition to eat or to integrate in one's body the blood of an animal, it is a prohibition for a Jew for specific reasons of our service in the temple. It is not forbidden for a Noahide in the case where he would want to have a bloody state. It's not forbidden. In what regards the transfusion, is as well not forbidden. It is permitted absolutely to transfuse blood from a person to another in the context of saving his life, in a medical context, as it is discussed further, as you mentioned before, in the divine code, to organ transplant. We could ask ourselves the question. I want to mention before I refer to organ transplant that blood in itself is not an organ per se, like the liver or the kidney or the lung or the heart or the stomach. It is not an organ. Okay, it's not defined, even though it's defined in the vascular system, it is not an organ by definition. Okay, so that's why there is no prohibition actually for a Noahide, even to take it, to extract from an animal, even though the animal could be living. Okay, even second, organ transplant would be a modification of the body, and we know that it's prohibited for a person to modify his body with tattoos, with holes in the body. The earrings are okay for a woman, but the holes in the rest of the body, piercings and stuff like that, is modifying the body, and it's forbidden by Torah. The body does not belong to us, it belongs to Hashem. Okay, so regarding the transplant of an organ, if it's in the situation of saving a life, pikuach nefesh doche kol haTorah, the life pushes all of the laws of the Torah. If a father would have a failing kidney and would have to get a transplant of a kidney of a son, the son is authorized by Torah to provide for him a kidney so he can live. Okay, so this is in a medical context, of course, I precise here, and it will be, the references will be noted down in the link of the description. If a person has a particular question, a particular case, should consult a rabbi for specific clarification of a specific case, okay? But I just want to make sure the practical point, not to have any superstitions or ideas that I don't know where this blood is coming from, and maybe the soul of that person would be transferred with the blood into me. No, it's red blood cells and platelets. That's what it is. Okay?
So we can have a blood transfusion. That's good to know when you have to go to surgery.
Yes. And I just want to add a final point. Some people do ask me, some people question after they die, what should they do with their body? Some people ask me, should they give it to science? Should they can give it to medical students to operate on it? The answer is the following. A person should be buried when she dies. A person should be buried in the ground with no coffin, with no nothing, just dressed up and involved by a sheet of white linen, okay, and be buried in the ground. Like it says in Bereshit, min afar yitzarti otchem la'afar tashuv, from the dust I created you, from the to the dust you shall return. People sometimes they write permissions to donate their body to science. If a person considers such an option, a person should consult a rabbi for a specific answer in that case. In a general case, a person should not give his body to any post-mortem experiments, should be buried like everyone else, in a proper place in the ground. And if there's a particular situation, that should be consulted with a proper rabbi. Okay?
But an organ, people are allowed to give if it's sure that their heart has stopped beating, isn't it?
It's not a simple situation, black and white. We have to see the heart may have started beating, but the brain continues to be functional. There is a possibility to reanimate, to resuscitate. There's a discussion in the Talmud about what is considered really clinical death. If it's the brain that stopped working or the heart that stopped working. Okay, sometimes, not sometimes. Depending on the timing, it's a very precise thing to do. In the 4 or 5 minutes, the brain tends to die. Okay, if it's in the first 2 to 3 minutes, the brain is still alive, even if the heart stopped. So we cannot extract any organs from the person at that point. She's still alive. Okay, so so specific situations need to be dealt specifically. Okay, but if a person wants to sign a paper, if something happens to him and he wants to give his organs, etc., that needs to be consulted with the rabbi and see the situation specific.
Thank you for your answer.